All right, guys, what's going on? Welcome in. So in this one, I wanted to really focus in on some of the top veteran backup quarterbacks. As we all know, the Jets desperately need one, but the good news, there's plenty of them to go around. There's tons, right? So I wanted to talk about really the top six, in my opinion, the top six guys that I feel like the Jets should target. But some honorable mentions before we dive into it. Sam Darnold, I think that would be an awesome option. I just don't know if he's willing to come back to the Jets at this point. Also, Joe Douglas traded him away. So could be a weird dynamic there, but still a good option nonetheless. Of course, some guys that made headlines this season like Josh Dobbs, Carson Wentz, Joe Flacco. Tyler Huntley, I think, is also a pretty interesting option from the Baltimore Ravens. But let's start this list off with the first quarterback here. It's Jacoby Brissett. Right, this is somebody who's been labeled throughout the course of his career as a great teammate, somebody who's smart, has a high football IQ. He's been around great quarterbacks, right? Not only has he just been around great quarterbacks, but he's been around great coaches as well. He has a wealth of experience. At one point in time, he was actually the starting quarterback for the Colts, but he had a couple starts for Cleveland. Obviously, was with the Commanders last season. Almost led a comeback against the Jets last year. If it wasn't for Zerline hitting that. I believe it was a 54-yard field goal, if I'm not mistaken. But there's a lot to like with Jacoby here. One thing that also stands out, and this kind of ties into, with him being a great teammate, but he's about the team. He's not about himself, or he's not about the stats or whatever. He's just about winning football games, right? I remember at one point last season, I think it was actually after the Jet game, if I'm not mistaken, Howell struggled, got benched, Brissett came in. I think it was after the game. There was a story about how Brissett approached Howell and said, don't let this discourage you. If you want the starting job, come at me. Like, he wanted to see Howell do well and go toe to toe with him, because he's just that type of guy. So I feel like Jacoby Brissett also too. When we're talking about the veteran backup quarterback position, we have to assume, okay, Rodgers gets hurt. Right? Does Brissett keep us alive? Can Brissett go out there and win games, throw for yards, push the ball down the field, make right decisions? Right? Can he do these things? I think the answer is yes. Okay, so next up is actually one of my favorite players in football. Funny enough, it's Tyrod Taylor. Somebody who is, much like Jacoby Brissett, he's bounced around tons of different teams. At one point, he was the starting quarterback for the Buffalo Bills, was the quarterback of that playoff team that first got the Bills back to the playoffs, breaking the drought, which I thought was awesome. But Tyrod, yes, he's not the biggest guy in the world. Yes, he's not really been that consistent starter. Yes, he doesn't really have much of an upside anymore. But when it comes to Tyrod, you're getting somebody who takes care of the football. He doesn't put it in harm's way. Now, you can push back at me and say, well, that's probably why he didn't hang on in Buffalo. Right, because he wasn't really consistently, beating teams over the middle of the field, down the field, right, working the intermediate game. He was so quick to check it down. Even like, it almost kind of seemed like the check down was like his first read in certain plays back with the Bills. Just snaps the ball, two-step, boom, ball's out right to the check down, gain of 3, gain of 2. But with that, you're not turning the football over. You're putting your defense back out on the field. You're changing field position. I think that trait in a veteran backup is awesome, right? Because you don't want your backup to go out there and throw for 4 picks and lose you the game. You just want the backup to manage the game. With Tyrod, you also get the incredible dual threat abilities, right? Despite him being 34 years old, he still has blazing speed. And this next point actually goes hand in hand with him checking the football down, but it's a good understanding of, high risk plays. Right, so when it comes to the checkdowns, when it comes to him throwing the football away or him just, dumping the football off quickly, right, quick little incompletion, oh, play's not there, let me dump it, get rid of it, or even tucking it and running, Tyrod has a really good sense of that. He doesn't hang in the pocket, try to make something out of nothing all the time. Occasionally he will do that with his, running ability, but it's not like he's trying to be a hero. He's not like he's trying to snag headlines or anything like that. Go out there and be Superman. I think Tyrod does a good job of just managing the football game. And last season he had some starts with the Giants, looked pretty good. I believe he was 2-3. One of the losses though came on like a goal line missed call by the ref. against the Buffalo Bills. I think that was actually a primetime game, if I'm not mistaken. But Tyrod, I love him. I love his career. Love kind of just his resiliency throughout the course of his career, right? He bounced around so many different teams. Baltimore, Buffalo, who else? The Chargers, the Browns, obviously the Giants last season. I feel like I'm missing one or two in there as well. But in any case, I think Tyrod would be a nice, cheap option for the Jets. Okay, so next up, this quarterback has the upside that Tyrod doesn't bring to the table, that Jacoby Brissett doesn't bring to the table. Former second overall pick Marcus Mariota, right? Marcus formerly, obviously last season spent it with the Eagles, but before that he was the starting quarterback for the Falcons, got benched at one point. But when you look at Marcus, he's still a functioning quarterback. He can still go out there, win games, right? Make good decisions, tuck it down and run. He gives you a high ceiling in regards to the dual threat ability, right? The read option stuff, the RPO stuff. I think Marcus really thrives over the middle of the field, right? Because Marcus is decisive. When he locks onto a guy, he will pull the trigger. So it's all about him just feeling comfortable with, an individual read. But again, those crossing patterns, those little curl routes over the middle of the field, that's where I feel like Marcus shines along with his running abilities. And if we take a look at Nathaniel Hackett's offense, there's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of short passing stuff over the middle of the field, at least in Denver. That's what it was. So I believe that, if Marcus is the backup quarterback, there's going to be not necessarily a package for Marcus in that regard with, the passing over the middle of the field, but definitely with the RPO stuff. But then again, you can push back at me and say, well, Zach Wilson, Tim Boyle, Trevor Siemian, the three backups, the Jets coaching staff couldn't they couldn't tailor the offense to all three of the Jets backups that we saw last season, and they were pretty outside of Siemian. They were pretty much there since training camp. So they had no answers. In other words, they were just like, okay, Rodgers gets hurt, the future first ballot Hall of Famer. We don't know how to do anything else. We can't tailor the offense around Zach. That's not my opinion. That's what happened. That's what they actually said. So will they take a chance on a guy, Marcus Mariota, who brings a different skill set to the table compared to an Aaron Rodgers? I don't know, but I still like the option. Okay, next up, the biggest name on this list here, Ryan Tannehill. I think with Tannehill, it's interesting because right off the bat, he would be the best backup quarterback in football, in my opinion. But I still feel like he can go out there and start, right? If he signs a contract with the Falcons, if he signs a contract with the Patriots, right? If maybe New England passes on a quarterback up at the top of the draft, I could see him winning a job and being the starter for, half a season or even the full season, right? If we're taking a look at teams that need a quarterback that have a wide open competition, not named Chicago because it's, Justin Fields, Caleb Williams, and then even at number 2, Drake May, Jaden Daniels potentially. But I mean, man, again, if you're looking at a team, they have no clue who's going to be playing quarterback for them. They don't really have a plan. I think Tannehill will be a nice option to go there and, from his perspective, have an opportunity to start, right? Go in there, maybe beat out a rookie, and then it's his team for a season. But if Tannehill doesn't get that opportunity, or if the Jets want to make him like the highest paid backup quarterback and he's fine with that, obviously, his resume speaks for itself. He's won a bunch of games. He has playoff experience, playoff wins, knows how to spread the football around to his playmakers, can rely on the defense, doesn't really put the ball in harm's way too much. Did a lot in Miami, but once he got to Tennessee, he kind of revamped his game into more so that game manager style. Because again, if we think about him with the Dolphins, he didn't play like that. He was hucking the ball down the field. He would rack up tons of passing yards. But with the Titans, we saw the constant production. We saw the high TD to INT ratio. We saw a lot of wins. And at the end of the day, it did seem like the Titans kind of rallied behind Tannehill as opposed to Marcus Mariota, who he had ended up replacing. So I think Tannehill's an interesting option, but I feel like it might be tough to present him a contract knowing that he has no chance to start unless A-Rod gets hurt. Okay, so next up is Gardner Minshew. This is somebody who I feel like whenever he's out there, he makes plays. He continues to find himself in the starting lineup. Obviously, he was with the Jaguars for a couple of seasons, spent some time with the Eagles last season with the Colts. And he was actually 7-6 with the Colts this past season. So started in a bunch of games. I felt like he really held down the fort. If we think back, the Colts were picking 4th overall the season prior. It's not like they had tons of talent all over the place. It's not like they have, a plethora of wide receivers at their disposal. They had a rookie head coach in Shane Steichen. Jonathan Taylor missed a ton of time early on. I don't know. I felt like Minshew didn't really get talked about enough last season, as far as him coming in as a backup quarterback and doing a good job. Now, maybe it's just because I'm used to just seeing the Jets offense last season just continue to go 3-and-out and, all the problems that they had. But I don't know. Or maybe it's even, the Eagles game where Minshew threw for over 400 yards against the Jets a couple years ago. But I don't know. I think there is something to Gardner. I don't really feel like he's that go-to starter. But I feel like wherever he ends up, he always, finds a way to be effective. He knows how to run an offense. If he didn't know how to run an offense, he wouldn't have gotten, opportunities in Jacksonville, coming in as, I believe, a 7th-round pick, 6th or 7th-round pick. And he's stuck in, right? He doesn't have the biggest arm. He's not a crazy, dual threat athlete running quarterback. He doesn't have, that 6'6" frame. He's a good teammate, good leader, players love playing for him, and he's smart, knows where to go with the football. And last but not least, somebody who isn't really the veteran backup quarterback. I mean, I guess maybe a veteran, is kind of subjective at this point, but somebody who's still in his late 20s, somebody who still has a high upside, somebody who has an absolute rocket for an arm. It's Drew Lock from the Seattle Seahawks. Again, not that veteran option, but somebody who's still young enough who can continue to grow. I feel like maybe him behind Aaron Rodgers could provide the Jets an opportunity down the road, right, long term. Again, it's not really the veteran option, but has a lot of starting experience under his belt. A couple games with the Seahawks last season, but previously with the Denver Broncos, where he played in a fair share of games. Somebody who, you look at his frame, first of all, 6'3", 230 pounds. He does provide a lot of size. I think if you get a guy like Drew Lock and you put him behind Aaron Rodgers for a year or two, maybe, you can, you present the Jets a long-term plan to where maybe they now don't have to go out and take a quarterback in the 3rd round or in the 4th round if that's something that Joe Douglas is thinking about doing, or it doesn't put a ton of pressure on them to, make it work in the following draft. Not saying that Drew Lock is the guaranteed answer, but, if you look at the upside, if you look at the arm strength, the physical measurables, the starting experience, and also what he's been able to do in Seattle, it kind of seems like night and day from Denver to the Seahawks. It seems like the players really like Drew Lock. It seems like the coaches really like Drew Lock. I feel like, again, if he comes in, if he's the go-to backup, there's going to be more than meets the eye with this one. It's not just a 1-year rental. Okay, Rodgers gets hurt, we'll throw him in there. But I could see maybe a 2-year deal laid out for Drew Lock, which is it kind of gets me fired up thinking about it. Just thinking about the potential of him sitting behind A-Rod, eventually taking over. I don't know. For me, at least, it's an interesting idea. So anyway, let me know your thoughts down below in the comment section. Thanks so much for watching. Who's your top backup quarterback that you want the Jets to target? And as always, go Jets.